Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm here today with Claudia, a trustee at Inner Wings, and Stuart, the founder and CEO of Smart Stems. Thank you guys for joining me today for the Ada Scott Festival. Amazing. I'm Dawn. I'm the program manager at Inner Wings. So we're going to just have a talk today, a bit about what Inner Wings does, a bit about what Smart Stems does to give you some information on that, and also start a really, really important discussion about confidence in girls, helping them to have the confidence to enter STEM, enter computer science. That's what Ada's all about, and how we do that, and our plans for the future. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really interesting talk. So thank you so much for joining. So Stuart, if you'd like to give a bit of an introduction about Smart Stems for everyone who might not know what you do, that would be amazing.
Thanks, Siobhan. Pleased to be here. So Smart Stems are a charity based primarily in Scotland, but we work across the UK, and we deliver digital and virtual events into schools. And the physical events, we take children onto university and college campuses to show them about some of the courses and jobs. And if no one's been to campus before, that's pretty useful. And we do virtual events, which we kicked off really during COVID. That are aligned with the curriculum for excellence, and we planned lessons to deliver alongside teachers, where we have speakers come on and we try and open up people's aspirations about the opportunities in STEM that exist for them later in life.
Fantastic, perfect. And Claudia, if you want to give a bit of an introduction about Inner Wings.
Yes, definitely. So Inner Wings is a confidence building foundation. And we really focus now on the earlier age primary schools, children. And as the name says, we build confidence skills in young children, focusing a lot of the curriculum on the challenges of young girls as well. And the charity was founded by Melissa and Darren. Melissa was supposed to be here today, and probably you saw in the name of the event, she was going to be here with us. And she had a family emergency just before the talk started. Everything's okay, so nothing to worry, but I mean, she couldn't be with us. So I'm a trustee and spokesperson for the charity. So jumping in here to have this conversation with Stuart, which I'm really excited about.
Fantastic. So if we kick off with first question, just kidding. So we've come together for Ada Scotland, and they have that focus on helping girls get into computer science, a key STEM subject. Stuart and Claudia, what have you observed about girls and their interest in STEM subjects, and maybe their confidence when it comes to going for STEM subjects?
Well, I find with young people and with girls in particular, if they get exposed to these topics, and they meet someone who does it, they don't continue to think, as they perhaps can do early on, whether that's been at home or at school or wherever they've picked it up. They sometimes have a notion of girls' jobs and boys' jobs, and if we can divest them of that notion, that's a really positive step. And so getting a role model or someone who's been there and done it at a different age group, maybe someone who's started a company, someone who's working at a really big company that they think sounds pretty cool, that can be a great way to get the kids to continue to keep it in their options. Mm-hmm. And that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to get them to do X or Y. We just want computing science to remain an option until the point where they might actually figure out that they're good at it, and then they can stick with it. That's our sort of view of things. Claudia?
Yeah, no, and I love the work you guys are doing, because exactly when we did our research about how confidence impacts the career of women like later in life and the choices they make, which subjects to take, one of the points we hear is exactly that, perhaps lack of role model, right? They normally, the first role model they have in their lives are the mother figure, the grandmother, and it's a perpetuating generation over generation of women not taking those careers, right? So I think the work that you do in terms of, actually, there are a lot of women who are now entering those careers. It's a possibility, right? Just inspiring girls that it's a possibility, and showing role models or people who've done it. I think it's a fantastic first step. It's like they don't know that they can be something if they if nobody tells them it in a way, or if the world tells them, actually, this is the kind of profession for women, this is the kind of profession for men, right?
Absolutely, it's that wonderful feminist mantra: you can't be it if you can't see it, right? It's a real thing, and there will always be trailblazers in life, and those people don't need any role models; they'll just get on and do it. But for Pareto always applies that for that other 80, maybe even 90%. It's kind of helpful if they see someone who's done it already, that they can speak to and ask questions. And I see our job on your side of the fence and my side of the fence is really speaking to these kids. And once we've allowed them to think about a possibility, we can then start to nurture them, and it might yet become a probability. And then increase the odds of it happening. But I think the work you're doing around confidence building is phenomenally important and necessary, because some people just don't feel they're on as sure a footing as they need to be, and they need to get that confidence to strike out into a field where they're less represented. Not everyone's able to be that trailblazer, so we need to find ways to build that. And so I think what Inner Wings are doing and trying to focus on that, and it is key that they do that against other organisations like ourselves that are focusing more on a particular skill or awareness. The confidence is something that's been overlooked by lots of people up to now, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the key statistics that we see, and we talk a lot about at Inner Wings, is between the ages of 8 and 14, girls' confidence drops by 30%. And I'm just curious, I know you work with schools a lot in person, and you do your workshops. What are the girls saying about their confidence or about their interest? Like at that age, in those, we work up to 14, like what's their opinion of themselves when it comes to STEM?
There's quite a broad church in terms of how people present themselves, but I think broadly, that sort of onset or early stages of puberty doesn't lend to great confidence among lots of young people. And there's just that period where they're more inclined to fall in with the herd. And then just once you come out that age at 14, 15, at that point, they're ready to be more individual. They're ready to be more idealistic and chase down their dreams. But it may have happened that in that 8 to 14 age range, they've taken physics out of play, or they've taken computing science out of play. And so what we need to do collectively is encourage those things to stay in play as they get through that difficult period. That's from my side of the fence, and I think from Claudia's side, I'll let her chat about the confidence side.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you think, wow, so young, 8, right? Already challenged with confidence. When we start doing research, one thing we found out is that there's a lot of narratives being told to the children of what is expected from them. It comes from the household, it comes from school, social media is a big one as well. And I think the challenge that some children face is actually finding who they truly are, what really makes them happy, versus this expectation that is coming from the world of what is expected from them, right? And I think that's a point we've been working a lot. So we talked about the inspiration, like there are possibilities, but then if you come into a room and you're the only one that looks like that, right? So imagine these girls were like, okay, I want to do career in STEMs, and they come in a room and they're the only women there, the only girls there. It is really hard to find that you fit, that you belong there, right? When you look around, and I see a lot of women or girls like actually taking on the challenge and sometimes losing themselves in that challenge because they're not authentic anymore. They're trying to be something else. They're trying to be like others that they see around. Mm-hmm. So finding this authenticity is a key one that we are working on. Mm-hmm. And I can tell about the programs we have on that. But what do you think about that, Stuart?
I would agree. I think I mean, in terms of like practical steps, how can we put a series of really concrete footholds in front of these young people so that they can make their journey? Sometimes I see in the computing science side that you get kids who are very much, they want to go down the gaming route, and this is boys or girls want to go down the gaming route, and it's kind of almost like cyberpunk, steampunk worldview, and they don't. So I think it's incumbent on us to really show them the breadth of opportunities that computing science can represent. the fact that computing science is and continues to be and will increasingly be part of every business and every industry. And those are really, really, really useful core skills, so that if you've got a passion topic and you've got a core discipline in computing science, really you have so many options when you're older. If you want to go and work in the arts, or want to do this, or want to do that, those things don't preclude you from computing science. They just have particular areas. And so helping to show that diversity of role, independently as a team, working remotely, showing these things, showing artsy, less artsy, crunchy, less crunchy type of job, showing all these things to people allows them to think, there's something in there for me. I should keep this in play. This does provide me with good opportunities, because a lot of kids aren't coin operated when they're 8 years old. They're not thinking about what their salary is going to be or their career aspirations, but they are thinking about what might be fun, what might be a fun way to spend the time that they've got on this planet.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got to show them.
Yeah. And I love you touched the point diversity, right? Because I think if we step one level higher and think about like, why are we doing all of that? And obviously we're thinking about a more diverse world where you have different points of views in different classrooms, as well the other side of the token, which is professions that normally are taken by women being done by men, also bring that different point of view to the table, or diversity of thought, right?
Absolutely. If we can't have, as a society, if we have over the last 5 or 10 years, as in the world, we become a lot more aware of different sorts of biases. Our thought processes around unintended bias. Was it positivity bias? The idea, it's not going to happen to me when in areas of risk. We have become more mature in those positions, but we haven't yet really applied it enough into our day-to-day practices. So having, I see it in veterinary studies in Scotland, in veterinary studies in dentistry and medicine. All of these, which are under the STEM banner, are more have more intakes by young women than by young men. And we need to make sure that both these messages are taken out, because if we don't, we're going to find in any of these areas more groupthink going on, less innovation, less invention, less progress, and our societal potentiality is reduced if we don't address groupthink. And that only works by getting in at ground zero and explaining to kids that there are no girls' jobs and there are no boys' jobs. Yeah.
So our programs are, the name Inner Wings. So it's really finding that inner strength and confidence. And it starts, we call it Finding Your Confidence. The first one's Find Your Superpower. And Siobhan is the program manager here for the program. I see another Stuart. Hi.
Sorry, it's Karen Murray. I'm here from Smart STEMs. I just joined using the link. My apologies, I didn't realise it was going to come up as Stuart. Please.
Hi, Karen. No worries.
Hi.
Same happened to me. I came as Melissa, and then changing the name. Nice to meet you. Yeah, we're just talking about confidence, obviously, and I was just sharing. We talked about basically giving the ideas, planting the seed. You can be whatever you want to be, right? As first step. And I see Smart STEMs doing a fantastic job in there, and just sharing a little bit of where we're tackling is potentially like one step after that, which is like, okay, now the ladies the girls were encouraged to take that first step and enter that room that potentially they were the first ones to look like that, right? And then what do they do? How do they find the confidence to be able to express themselves, to share the unique point of view? So we have the first program is called Find Your Superpower, which we really explore the kids finding what is what tickles them, what makes them happy, what are they great at. So instead of focusing on like, oh, everybody's on TikTok and dance really nicely, I don't know how to dance and I need to, bad for me. It's like, what are you great at? What really tickles you? Like, let's double down on that. And I think if you think for the world, if everybody can choose, and focus on where they're the happiest, where they are the best, and we have the best of everyone, right, in the world. So that's really the first step. And the second step is like, okay, you found where you're great at and what tickles you, what really makes you happy, your superpower. then how do you get your message across? How do you communicate, share your idea, knowing that you're going to get potentially in an argument, or there will be people who don't agree with you first, right? And that's the second program we have, which is Finding Your Voice. And it's more than public speaking, but obviously it has public speaking elements to it. But it's really like about communication. It's like understanding that everybody's born as a communicator, right? We can all communicate. That how to deal with anxiety when speaking out loud, when sharing your opinion. So we have really good tricks and tips to actually get the kids confident in speaking, and mostly coming from the inside, knowing that that is important. They want to do it, so they don't have the stage fright and get scarred for life. Like, I don't want to be put in that position. So that's like where we're really investing now.
I think that's so important, Claudia, because there's lots of people who sort of, they're on that trajectory to go and do something, but that maybe their confidence falters, or maybe mum and dad talk them out of it, or there's just lots of, if we imagine everyone at the start of the race who has the chance to make it to go and do something in one STEM career or another, there are very many points at which they can fall away. And we've got to make sure that we shore up all those areas where they can naturally drop off. And confidence is a key part of that. And I know I touched on it earlier, but lots of us are working to show role models, or to try and support teachers with bringing in industry experts into classrooms to help facilitate more current learnings, and to bring some fun and some real practicality into topics. But the confidence piece has maybe been lacking with what a lot of us are doing. We try where we cover is things like that. So we're trying to address that poverty of aspiration. I didn't even know there was a job to do that. I'm pleased every time I come across a job role that I've never heard of, and then I'm desperate to tell everyone else about it. And I think that's so important that we continue to do that, but that person helps to instill confidence in those young people. And maybe if they can signpost to people like yourselves in the schools to say, well, why don't we try and do this more systematically, rather than relying on that one speaker or that one engagement to set a fire in that young person's tummy? Why don't we try and be more systematic about how we address that confidence issue? So I'm really encouraged by what you're doing, and we'll try and signpost more to yourselves for sure.
Very cool. Siobhan, do you want to ask us another question? Or should we keep going?
No, this is honestly fascinating. When I was growing up, I think knowing that there were, people in like the next generation that was so passionate about making, my life more authentic, and, wanting to help me build my confidence. I think, it's really, really inspiring to see. So how can teachers, parents, mentors, how can they build confidence? Because we know confidence is obviously so important, but what can we do to really help girls and boys understand how important confidence is? How can we build that confidence in them?
Maybe this is more for Claudia, but we try and brief speakers to talk about the fact that they didn't arrive as the finished article. I think sometimes children think, oh, look at this, they're giving a good talk, they know this topic, they went to this school, they did this stuff, they traveled the world. Oh my goodness, how do I navigate myself from where I am today to that point? It seems if we're not careful, we can really put people off, right? So we have to make sure that the person gives those navigable touch points. Well, actually, go and speak to people who do this job, and if you don't know somebody, we'll try and help you with that. You can speak to me after the session. We encourage our speakers to remain in contact through the broker, through a teacher. It's not like go off and have conversations privately, but you want people to understand that when I got this first job, I had learned some skills, but I maybe I wasn't the complete article, and I had to go and navigate. So it's the same when we put role models in. We'll try and show graduate apprenticeship students, for example, to 10-year-olds, whereas if we got 14-year-olds, we might show somebody who's a wee bit further on in their career. And if I'm speaking frankly to university students, which isn't our core at all, but we might show somebody who's in a really high-flying job, because it has to be within that. I think in teaching circles, they talk about the zone of proximal development. We can't show things that are too far away, or it can seem just, oh my goodness. So we've got to give them baby steps, consumable, actionable advice. Keep in touch, keep saying yes, keeping your options open.
Yeah. And I think you know, this whole point of role model, you almost think like everybody has a responsibility, right? All the grown-ups into being a role model to the next generation. And it's not just because it's my child, or, you know, and obviously the teachers have such a big responsibility in that, right? As they are there day to day with the children, seeing them grow. I see my, you know, I just met the nursery children, was getting coffee this morning of my children. And you know, she's seeing my children grow the same way. They're still in the same school as I'm seeing, right? So it's much more than parents' responsibility. It's, I think, grown-ups, but I think to the point of being systematic, the way we are seeing this, obviously, it's so hard to get parents' attention these days. There's so much information being fed to parents, and from our experience, parents pay attention to what the school is sharing, right? And the schools are doing the research and finding what's the latest and bringing programs in. So from the beginning, we've been focusing, working with the schools, and we empower the teachers to deliver the curriculum. So we build the program and we teach the teachers, and we give the program to the teachers. The teachers also know how to adapt to their own classroom, right? So we give the parameters, we give like the lessons learned, the opportunity to chat with each other and you know, exchange ideas. But we really think it's powerful for the teachers to be bringing that message into the classroom. And so that's where we are really focusing. And obviously later, through the schools, getting to the parents, right? So bring the parents into that conversation as well. So we think that's how you really like close the loop.
I think it's difficult sometimes the teachers are really drowning, you know, that it can be very, very difficult. And I think if you know, my business is a cybersecurity business, is my kind of day job, and I think industry has to put its shoulder under the yoke a wee bit more than perhaps it's done historically, and support the teachers, because sometimes I think, and it's good to hear you're doing the support and the wraparound, but sometimes things just land in at school and it's like, oh, good, another thing. And what we need to, you know, if industry, particularly big industry, if big industry wants to have a really good talent pipeline, a diverse talent pipeline, it has to invest in that talent pipeline. It has to take time to go out and engage with schools in their community and ensure that everyone is given that equity of opportunity. And industry has its part to play, as do students. And I think as we go through the school system and go through the college or university system, which not everyone does, but if that happens and you end up in industry, your time hasn't finished then. You know, you've got to go and give something back. And I think that I would like to see personally more of a societal shift to more people doing more volunteering and doing a little bit. If everybody does a little bit, you've also got a more diverse pool of volunteers as opposed to overly enthusiastic lunatics like myself.
That's a very fair point. I like that, and you give us something to reflect on our own model. How can we, like bring more support and more people involved? And I really like that. Yes.
We found students at college and university quite keen to help. One of the things, a fortunate accident, it wasn't by design, but a fortunate accident that came out of an early Smart STEMs event was that we had a volunteer come, and we also had HP, and there was a young person who came to volunteer, and they met a person who was volunteering as part of their job through HP. And later on, I bumped into them. They said, "Oh, I got a summer placement at HP." So they got something out of it. HP got something out of it, because it can be a bit of a lottery trying to find student volunteers. And they got to meet someone and see, oh, this is a decent human being who has good social values as well as some skills. And so it de-risked it for the employer. The student got an opportunity out of it. Oh, and by the way, the school got well supported by someone from industry and someone from college. So there are people who are, I think, ready, willing, and able, and to be mobilised if we can just drop the barrier to moving from being a sort of passively good person. I would do good if the opportunity arose, to an actively good person. I did this on Tuesday.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that at Inner Wings, we're hoping to have, an ambassador scheme where we have those like older children supporting the younger ones, and seeing that clearly works with what you're doing, I think is really, really positive. And I think it's definitely something that will make a big difference, having someone that you can talk to in a sort of, it's not necessarily as intimidating, and someone that you can really relate to. I think seeing that works is something we'll definitely take on board and really put into action.
Well, we'd be happy to share a bit of best practice and all that if we can. I'm not saying ours is the best practice, but what we've found to be the best so far. I think also if you're doing, because you guys work across primary and secondary, right? You work across both. So if you, is that right?
Mostly primary now.
Mostly primary. So if you ever find yourself going into senior as well, even if it's just the first year of senior school, you can work with the school clusters, which is a nice way to do it as well. So you work with the feeder primary schools into the senior school, and that can be a good way to align so there's a continuity in the service that you're providing.
Oh, yeah.
They're great for parents watching, any teachers watching, to really try and find that, maybe if it's your kids, try and find those maybe slightly older kids in those fields and connect them with them. I think that would be really, really helpful and positive for your.
Yeah, and we are hearing when we go out there and ask, what is, when we see like the confidence being shaken up, and we see that there are some transition points in the children's career and growth, and that point of transitioning schools is a big one. When they go from being the elder in a school to being the younger and not knowing what's going on, right? So I can see the impact of that for sure.
I'm just conscious of time. I think with the last 3 minutes, it would be really great if you guys were able to share, how people can get involved. If anyone watching wants to work with Smart STEMs or get them involved in your school, how can they do that?
Yeah, so if they would like to get involved, they can have a look on our website, which is smartstems.org, and they can send us an email at hello@smartstems.org. We also have, if anyone's on the industry side, I'm not sure quite what the uptake is between sort of teachers and professionals, but anyone who's on the professional side, if you would like to become an advocate for us or get involved in my job or my journey, you can go on to if you type become an online advocate, Smart STEMs in, it'll take you straight to that link on the Google, and you can come and fill in your details. We'd love to capture your story and get you in talking to schools. We don't have enough diverse stories. We're always looking for more.
Fantastic. And Claudia, I see you've put the email in the
that's
exactly.
No, she's a pro.
So yes, that email, contact us, please, contact us at innerwings.org, but please, if you're a teacher. So we have, our programs are free, and we'll be willing to work with you on what works for your school, for your classroom. And if you're a parent, if you have children in school, you want to bring this program to school and can introduce us to your school, to your teachers, we'd love to hear from you as well. Same email. If you're interested in volunteering with us, our website's innerwings.org, and we'll have a link. Join the movement, and you can join us there.
That was so much more professional than mine, Claudia. I'm so impressed. That is you covered the free, or everyone's favorite price point. You said it was free. The schools can get involved. That was spot on. I wish I'd done it as well as that. All those things, but also us. We do that too.
Yeah, please go and have a look at Smart STEMs and Inner Wings. Thank you so much.
Siobhan, I'm seeing a question.
Oh, there's a question.
Yeah, like it changed to Q&A. On the right side. Do we want to answer that?
Yeah, so the question is, would it be possible to go in at government level and helping them by suggesting that each LEA, I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Local authority.
Should be, there you go, local authority should have a STEM champion that looks after the schools in their area. Brief thoughts on that?
So about Karen, you might be able to help me with timelines here, but I guess about 3 or 4 years ago, there was lots of STEM champions in lots of the councils. Not all of them appear to have one now. So I think it sort of went into vogue and went out of vogue, or it was a post that was funded for a year or maybe 2 or 3 years. There are still some, as far as I'm aware, but not many. I'm fairly confident STEM's getting a reasonable turn at most in most local authorities. I think what's maybe been lacking is some of the things that maybe it's not for this. It's maybe more difficult for the state to provide, and that's some of the pain points that we've talked about, which is role models and people talking practically about the careers you can have, and that's probably industry's job to get involved in that, not to be political about it.
No, absolutely. And then very quickly, about building confidence for boys too. Claudia, if you want to take this, or
yeah, I think from the beginning, we are a confidence building foundation. Our logo is a girl, and we've been focusing on, let's say, the brand visuals and everything for girls. As our founder has a girl, and she's seen that that's where a lot of the challenge that she's seeing as a mother, and like being a woman herself. But when we start looking around, it doesn't make sense to do programs just for girls. So obviously all our programs are for both genders, so it's inclusive of all.
And it's particularly after COVID, COVID's affected every child, being isolated, and we're really, really keen to make sure that our programs benefit both genders, and both will be brought up by each other, being in the same room, working together. With, there is statistics to back up that, there is an issue with girls' confidence, but all children can benefit from, the work that both Smart STEMs and Inner Wings are doing, and it's very much open to both. So yeah, to make that clear.
Oh, that's really good to hear. I think it's interesting. It's a fair point. I mean, I think if we're interested in equality and equity of opportunity, then that is a pervasive issue. It goes across absolutely everything. The latest research to come out seems to indicate that the most disadvantaged group is working class white boys below the poverty line. Kids below the poverty line from a working class white background are the most disadvantaged. We focus at Smart STEMs, we focus not exclusively at all, but we primarily focus on SIMD 20 areas as our main target, and then even within that we'll try and find people where nobody's been to university in the family background. There's no maybe people without employment, so we'll try and focus on those that are most hardest to reach, got the furthest to come, and have been overlooked. But you know what? Everybody deserves an opportunity to live the best life that they can. That's everyone, and we've all got a part to play in that.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end it on. Thank you so much for joining. It's honestly been so interesting just to listen to, even though I'm part of it. It's so great that we're having these conversations. I hope the people watching, I hope you have something you can take away from this and feel inspired as well. And thanks to Ada for putting the festival on. I think it's an amazing opportunity. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. If you want to get in contact, reach out, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.